Welcome back. In this video, we are going to see how to load a virtual instrument with a new method. As in the previous lecture, we have seen the old method with a lot of tracks involved, the MIDI track, the track folder used to contain sub-tracks, such as the track that controls all the VST parameters, plus the track that controls VST audio, and so on. Now, what we are going to see is a faster and easier method to load a virtual instrument into a project. So, let's start by recalling the context menu on the track list, and I'm gonna choose Add Instrument Track. In this case, I can directly decide which kind of instrument I can load, the audio output, in our case it will always be stereo, track name, and how many instances we can load, even if this time we will only use one instance. We can do the same if we recall the VST window from the Studio menu, VST Instruments, or F11 shortcut, where this time we can choose Add a track instrument and not a rack instrument as before. Okay, let's open again the Helion Sonic. And the Helion Sonic has been loaded, where this time, as you can see on the track list, a new instrument track has been created. And that's all. No additional tracks, meaning no more folder tracks, subfolder, a couple of VST instrument tracks, and of course the MIDI track. In fact, in our track list, we have really a clearer view, right? Okay, as done before, we can now load a preset. In this case, I'm gonna load again a fretless preset. Let me reset everything. Type in fretless. And there we go. This is our preset. I'm gonna load it with a double click over the preset name. There we go. Now, as seen before, we can use the on-screen keyboard, so Option Alt K, and as you already know, I can directly play on my keyboard as if it's a MIDI keyboard. So I'm going to play Cubase, and when ready, I will record the MIDI track. There we go. Now, let me close the on-screen keyboard, and as we have seen before, now we have to quantize the MIDI notes we have just recorded, and we can do that directly on the event display window here. So, with the MIDI part selected and a proper quantize value, if I press the Q button on my keyboard, I have just recalled the quantize function. I'm gonna undo it, Ctrl-Command-Z, so you can see it again, and Q to quantize, there we go. Okay, as seen before, it's always a good idea to double-check all the MIDI notes we have just recorded on the key editor. So, for example, I'm gonna try to avoid overlaps. And we can also use the legato function, but in this case I will manually correct only a couple of bars. Okay, I want to try a slight variation here. We can syncopate the second bass note like this. Now let's listen to what we have done. So I'm gonna close the lower zone, then by pressing the Alt Option key to recall the scissor tool, I'm gonna delete the rest of the MIDI notes, and I'm gonna press Ctrl-Command-D to duplicate the correct part I want to use in my groove. There we go. So Control Command A to select all, P to position locators, 1 to rewind as usual, and the spacebar to play Cubase. Okay, we have basically done the same thing we have seen in the last lecture, but this time using the new VST method. As you can see, only one track has been created, and I think it's really a smarter and faster way to manage virtual instrument into a project. So, this will be the method we will use for the rest of the course, okay? Now practice yourself, and when ready, you can safely move on to the next lecture. See ya there!